clock says it's 7:30, so we'll start the meeting with the pledge led by Councilman Escobar. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Can you call the roll, please? I think it is.
Councilman Blazer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Present.
Councilman Froelich.
Present.
Councilman Isaacson.
Present.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Present. Motion to accept the July 22nd Town Board meeting minutes as presented.
I'll make the motion.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Blazer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. Letter from Dog Control Officer Tim Poliak. Dear Supervisor Zalotnik, I am submitting my formal resignation effective 2 weeks from today's date of 8/3/2020 from my position as Dog Control Officer at the Town of Milton. I am leaving this position to pursue a full-time law enforcement career. My last day of employment with the town will be I think we changed that to Friday, 8/14/2020. I would like to express my gratitude for the opportunities that the town of Milton has provided me over the last 2.5 years. I appreciate your understanding, and I am willing to help make this transition easier over the next few weeks if needed. Sincerely, Arsene Poliak, Dog Control Officer. A motion to accept Arsene's resignation and advertise for the position.
So moved. Second. With regret.
Any discussion?
Can I ask, what are we advertising for?
We're going to advertise for animal control officer.
So we're going by the county's list of qualifications?
Yes.
Yes, we are. We're going to go by the county list.
And we'll be going by the salary schedule for that too?
Yes. Oh, John, you got to use the mic when you're speaking.
Oh,
That's all right.
Sorry.
I think it's on.
can you hear me all? Man, I can't hear me on Facebook or whatever we're on, chat. What are we on?
I think we're on Zoom. Okay, so, yes to your questions, John.
Thank you.
Did we have a motion, Ryan?
Yes, we have a motion and a second.
Yes.
Okay.
Councilman Blazer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. Next up, a letter from Sean Mulvaney to the town supervisor and to his supervisor, Mark Nasdale. I am writing to let you know that I will be resigning from the facilities department. The highway department posted an open MEO position, and I applied and was accepted for the position. My last day with the department will be August 16th. I want to thank you for the opportunities you have given me in the facilities department. I feel that I have grown here, and I'm excited for the new possibilities and growth within the highway department. Sincerely, Sean Mulvaney. So a motion to accept Sean's resignation and advertise for his position.
So moved. Second.
Any discussion?
I assume this is the same thing we're going by the county description
Yes.
and the salary schedule too?
Yep.
Councilman Blazer.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. I'll tell you, this was a busy Monday. Effective immediately, I am resigning from the handbook committee. At this time, I am busy planning on spending time with my family. My daughter recently moved from Ohio to Massachusetts, and I plan to spend as much time as I can enjoying my family. Denise Whalen, Milton Town Court. So a motion to accept Denise's resignation from the handbook committee.
I'll make that motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Is she looking at any other applications for jobs that she does here, or just the?
Use the microphone.
Oh,
No, right behind you.
right here, Frank.
Right behind you, Frank. You guys can,
Is that her only responsibility here at this time?
No, she just resigned from the handbook.
Just from that single handbook?
Yep, just from the handbook committee.
Okay, all right, thank you.
She's going to stay on as a town employee.
Thank you.
Councilman Blazo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. Next up is a motion to allow the town clerk to advertise for a part-time account clerk typist for the controller's office. I think we all know that that office has had a little bit of turnover in the last 6 months here, and it's, I think it's imperative to get Dave the help he needs. He's done a really good job the last couple months of getting things straightened out and running a little bit better than they were before, and I think we all agree that part-time help is going to be good for him. At least a part-time help for now.
And to clarify, this is already in the budget, correct?
Yes.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
Any discussion?
Yeah, I got a couple of things. I'm not in favor of a part-time person. I've stated right along that I'm in favor of putting,
Microphone, John.
Come on.
hello. Can you hear me now?
I got turned
I
on.
have to turn it off. Up, I think.
How about now? Okay. I've stated right along that I think that should be a full-time position. I feel that putting in a part-time person is just slapping another Band-Aid on a problem we've had here. There certainly is a lot that a full-time account clerk can do to keeping our bills current and being paid, and it frees up Dave to do the things that the controller should be doing, which is keeping track of accounts, finding out interest rates, things like that that are important to his job. I guess that's my feeling on that. The other question I have, is this being paid also by the salary schedule?
There seems to be a little bit of confusion. I'm going to talk to Dave on Monday about that. He's put some numbers in that aren't exactly correct, so we have to discuss that.
Yeah, because I thought all part-time people were paid 15, I want to say 15.15 an hour because they got salaries.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go over that with him.
Okay.
And I agree with you, John. I think eventually it will become a full-time position, but Dave right now is still getting his feet wet, and he wants to, keep his fingers in some of the things that are going on and making sure that he can keep things going in the right direction. But I think we're planning on, his plan is to make that a full-time position eventually.
I agree with you too, John. I think we've discussed this. And, but right now, what we have budgeted there is a part-time position. So in the upcoming budget, I think we want to look at that as part of our new budget coming up. I'm sure there's plenty of work.
Councilman Blazo.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes.
Councilman Frolich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes.
And I'm getting a text message, microphones please, so somebody's not hearing us. through
Yeah, it
the-
was me.
Huh?
It was me.
No, I'm just saying.
All right, no, try this way.
Okay.
Next up is a letter from the Milton Town Ethics Board requesting the appointments of Christopher Pratt, 971 MacArthur Drive, and Jerome Cook, 14 Oakwood Court, to the Town of Milton Ethics Board, effective immediately.
Quick question, is there a reason we just got these? Because I haven't even had a chance to review them.
No, neither have I.
No,
We just
yeah,
got them.
I asked about
I
that
just got them
also.
yesterday.
Okay.
Seeing as that we just got them, and they've been without people for a few months now, and I don't know what they got going, if anything, is there a reason?
John, you gotta get right in front of the
Oh,
microphone.
did you shut it off now?
No, I
Which one is- no, I'll turn it up a little bit.
Okay, you got me now? This is too real,
She's going like this, can we turn them off?
Yeah.
this is really too technical for me, but,
Okay, you're all right.
because I haven't even had a chance to go over these two resumes even understand who we're voting on. I'd just as soon postpone it for a month so we can, or 2 weeks.
2 weeks.
2 weeks.
And they look pretty impressive, but I haven't really had a chance to read them either, but I'm not sure the direction this goes. I don't know, yell at her, I want a text message. I'm not sure, I can't remember what the process is. Ryan, do we normally, how does this normally go?
So the way it's written in ethics law is that the ethics board has the opportunity to interview all interested candidates. They make a recommendation, supply it to the board then will vote whether to accept or pass. I'm also curious though if there were any other applicants. So I'm seeing these two, that's great. I proofed them quickly, but again, just received them. I'm curious if there was anyone else.
I can answer that. There was one other person, and they pulled their application before the interview process.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we want to wait 2 weeks on these? Okay, yeah, please. So do we need to withdraw the motion or just,
There wasn't.
no motion, okay, I like that even better. Go ahead.
Mr. Supervisor, we do need to, before you vote on it, whether it's 2 weeks or 4 weeks, to confirm what the terms are. I remember some of the ethics board terms were staggered, so Ryan, maybe.
I believe that was altered in one of the last 2 or 3 years. The ethics board, I think yearly, will make recommended changes to the ethics law. I believe it was voted on and accepted that I think all terms are now 3 years, if I'm not mistaken. I don't believe they're staggered terms.
Okay, so then my next question is, are they filling terms that have people who resigned, and if so, what are those dates, or are we appointing them for 3 years? So we need to clarify that before we vote on it.
I guess another question would be, is it 3 years from the date of appointment, or is it a calendar, they get approved in 20, but their terms expire at the end of 22 or 23, or is it a 3 year from the date of when we approve them?
Yeah.
Okay. Okay, next, I promised the seniors an update on the community center and what's happening with their use of the building here. We are making some progress. We have some paperwork from MJ that we are going to be looking at the next couple days here. Mr. Trolish got some nice floor plans for us for our phase 1 and phase 2 options. And we're doing the best we can. I know people are not happy with that answer, Barb, but that's what we're doing, and we're moving as fast as we can on that. Next up is a motion to approve the extension of the state of emergency for another month. Do I have to read it, or are we okay approving it? Okay. All right. So we need a motion to approve the extension of the state of emergency for another month.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? Councilman Blaisdell.
Yes.
Councilwoman Kerr.
Yes,
Councilman Froelich.
Yes.
Councilman Isaacson.
Yes.
Supervisor Zalotnik.
Yes. Next up,
Benny, before you do this, I have a statement I'd like to read.
sure.
All right. My first issue is that this board is even considering moving court to Brookside Museum without even taking into account that the town gives the museum money and that one of the justices sits on the board of Brookside. My main concern is the safety of the court clerks. Who will be there on a Thursday afternoon when someone comes in to pay a fine and gets out of hand? At the community center, there are always people around for protection. I've watched the court proceedings for a couple of times and it seems to be working well. My next issue is with the handling of the seniors. There was a meeting with town employees and the seniors of their board. I still don't understand why the seniors can't have their 2 back rooms back, except that you and Barb like having your rooms back there. And that brings me to my third issue. What do you two have to hide? Why do you always use the outside door? Is that so employees don't know who's in there? I'm tired of the backdoor politics, as Barb has called it for years, when items were put on the agenda at the last minute or brought up at the last minute. She's accused others of not sharing with the rest of the board. I now know how she feels. I received a copy of Resolution 43, 2020 this afternoon when I asked for it from Jim Craig. I was told you guys have had a copy for a while. I have to give a resolution a number before you can vote on it. Otherwise, you don't have a number, okay? I had a FOIA request for information regarding the Heritage Springs rate hearing, yet until I asked for the final report, it was not given to my office. If I hadn't heard it was here, would I have gotten it? Again, I ask why. There has been a complaint of Barb's for years, but it's still happening. Why? My office will no longer be creating agendas that are withholding information from the public. Benny, you and I talked, and agendas were going to be done the week before, and only emergency things were going to go on. Yet, we've got a resolution that's going to go on tonight that there's no reason why this wasn't brought and put onto the agenda, even if it was Monday night. This is just my opinion, and I'm just irritated and at a loss because there's no communication, none whatsoever. And I've heard it's us against them. Well, it is when you hide out in that office and we don't even know if you're here.
I'm going to try to handle this very professionally. Brenda and I are both elected officials, and we are both due respect from each other. But I don't feel as an elected official, I have to announce when I'm here and when I'm not here. Most of the time, that door is open. And the reason we close it is because there's no privacy. And we have had conversations from that office repeated out to every employee in this place. That's why I keep saying this is a bad situation. This is not a good situation. I'm very disappointed, Brenda, because your statement is very unprofessional. Thank you.
Thank you for letting me talk.
You're welcome. The reason this was brought up quickly or hastily, however you want to describe it, is because I had a conversation with Mrs. Swalen, and she informed me that they needed to know as quickly as possible where they were going to be because they have to send out announcements for the courts. And so I decided that we would present this resolution tonight. If it gets voted down, then they can stay here for another month. But if we can get them moving, then they can take care of their mailings and get to where they need to be, where the people that come in have committed some type of crime or have a problem or something. I don't think, even though the court is open to the public, I don't think it does them a service by all of us being here and being able to hear or see. As for security, both Judge Brown and Judge Cromie have said they feel comfortable in that building. We will take whatever precautions we need to take to give them a little bit more safety. The police station is 30 seconds away. We'll put in a bell for them, a buzzer for them like they had over there at the other building. And that's why I brought this up tonight, because for paperwork and reasons like that, they needed to get moving forward on it. And as for Judge Cromie being on the board of directors, he has not attended or recused himself on those meetings where these decisions were made. He had no vote. It's okay, I understand. He had no vote in that decision. That being said, I will move on to Resolution 43.
May I say something else?
Sure.
I also know that Judge Cromie sits on several boards, and he was also president of our Grange. And he went before the judicial board, asked them the questions, and the only one they found a conflict was with the Grange, and he has since resigned. So the judicial board, or whoever oversees the justices, realizes the boards he's on and what his duties are in those positions. Thank you.
Resolution 43 of 2020, whereas the town offices has moved from the town hall to the Milton Community Center due to roof and mold issues, and whereas space is limited at the community center due to the shared use of the facility with the Boston area senior citizens, in order to accommodate the needs of the court, it is in the town's best interest to move the court to another location more suitable to their needs. And whereas Brookside Museum has offered sufficient and adequate space and parking at its facility at 6 Charlton Street, Ballston Spa, New York, within town to cover the needs of the court. Whereas the town must enter into a lease with Brookside on a month-to-month basis in order to reserve and use the space. Therefore, be it resolved, the town board of the town of Milton hereby authorizes and approves the town court to be relocated to Brookside Museum at 6 Charlton Street in Ballston Spa on a temporary basis. And it is further resolved that the town enter into a short-term lease with Brookside Museum on a month-to-month basis with the rent paid monthly in the amount of $1,000, along with the town being responsible for any utilities not covered by the lease, if any, and the cost of the move and any alterations, a copy of said lease being attached hereto and approved hereby. And it is further resolved that the town supervisor is hereby authorized to sign all documents required and pay all necessary expenses and amounts to do all things necessary in order to procure the facility and accomplish this temporary relocation and move. Therefore, be it resolved by the town board of the town of Milton. I know we don't have a copy of the lease, but I think everybody got a copy previously. We can send another one out tomorrow for everyone to, to look at again.
And I'd like to postpone a couple of weeks because we just got a letter went out from one of the judges. Very, very concerned. One of the judges contacted us today and said that they just wanted us to take a look at the structure. They're not looking for the law, they're not looking for something, but a gentleman who goes all over the state and into other states and takes a look at these types of places. He wants to get somebody to come in. This letter went out today and we received it a few hours ago, but that the letter has been sent and he has been talked to this gentleman who will come in and take a look and see if it is an appropriate building for the purpose that we want to use it. And I think it's only fair that for us, if that effort has been made, that we let him take a look. And again, my understanding is he should have a response back in a week. But, there's a lot of glitches in that place. There's a lot of unsafe things there. There's no place for a judge to take somebody into a private room or for an attorney to work with his people that he's working with. There's no privacy there. And
You gotta hold that close, Frank.
and it's, I'm sorry, but it's there's no place where the person who's, that is being tried can go to a private room with his attorney to talk. There's no anything along that line. And I am genuinely concerned for the people who are there, and especially for the young women who are working there for 2 or 3 hours. Soon it's going to be dark by 5 o'clock, and it's not a good, safe place as far as I'm concerned. I think we need to at least give this gentleman that we contacted, or that was contacted, to have an opportunity to say what he thinks about that facility. Because I don't believe there's sufficient parking. I understand there were some skirmishes yesterday when the judge was in session, where the normal controls that we had in our general facility would have easily been handled, but it took a little bit of time. I understand that a woman stood up and started turning over tables and those kind of things, and we were not prepared. I understand, I was not there, but I understand that it was difficult to bring that. In our previous, the tables were big and heavy and not easily moved. Apparently these were fairly easy to move. I just don't think it's a fair and safe place for our people to be. And if you watch the news at all, there's been a lot of creeping up of people breaking into homes in this kind of area. So, I feel bad that it's happening to our area township. It is a problem, and I think it will just bring on more problems. I think we need to be absolutely sure that the people who are working with us and for us are safe. Thank you.
I'll just add a couple of things, and you all know how I feel about it, because I sent you all an email during the week that I'm against the move to Brookside for the very reason that we've talked about. I think it's a huge safety factor to have, and we shouldn't say just women, to have judges down there that have essentially no protection. And because they have had trouble in their courts, they've had problems. I mean, everything from the metal detector being overturned, the chairs being thrown. I don't think we should expect our people to have to work in that type of situation. And the fact that Justice Brown wrote the letter, and the person Frank is talking about is actually, I believe, the next level up in the state that actually goes around the courts and does safety checks to make sure that they're a safe place for these people to be. So until we have that done, I really don't think we should even act on this, but I still will be against the move to Brookside.
I'd like to make a couple quick comments. I'm not necessarily against the move to Brookside, but I'm hearing some pretty good points this evening. It is my understanding Judge Brown and Judge Cromie are for the move. They're in support of the move. The concern that I'm hearing and seeing is with the clerks, which I can completely understand. I did see the correspondence as well that a security assessment has been requested. I didn't see where it was going to be ready in a week, but maybe I didn't see that portion in the email. If that's the case, that would be great.
That's the impression that I received.
Okay.
That this gentleman was on vacation now that this gentleman is on vacation till Friday, but from my understanding was he said he would get right on it after that.
Thank you. So a couple of the items that I noted is the difference between the existing structure for the court as well as where we're holding court here currently. I'm starting to lean in the direction of wanting to see the outcome of a security assessment before we make a decision. I really am. I think that's, even if there's minor things that can be done, and I know there's been discussions around being so close to the village police, can we have some sort of direct connection with them? Or a panic button like what existed at Town Hall, installation of cameras and so forth. I think they're all great. I know that there is the 30-day notice needed to communicate for court appearances. I'm hopeful that we could complete that within 30 days. But I would prefer to hold off to vote until the next meeting at this point.
I just want to say that I have met myself with the two justices, and then again with Supervisor Zlotnick, and the impression that, like Ryan said, they are both in favor of this move. They think it'll be a good move to be out of this building. My impression was with the security check was, yes, they'll give us some good ideas, but we don't have to exactly follow them. They don't see that there's going to be any problem. I've offered cameras. I think it's a good idea that we install cameras down there. You can now get them wireless, so we don't have to worry about that. Also a panic button hooked up to maybe the police department and definitely the sheriff's department up on top of the hill. If they want to hold off the vote, that's fine. But I am totally in favor of this move. I think it's a move forward for what we're going to do here in this town. We got to get back into our town hall, and that's not going to be an option for a few months. So what are we going to do to help accommodate the seniors also? Because this isn't fair to anyone with what happens in this building. So that's where I stand, and I know where my vote will go when the vote comes up. Thank you.
Did you make a motion? Well, no motion was made yet, no. It appears that this won't pass a vote anyway, so there's really no sense in bringing it up tonight. I will defer to the majority of the board this evening, and we will wait for this report to come back and see where it leads us. And if we need to make some alterations or stepped up security measures, then we will make them to make sure that everyone working in the court feels safe where they are working.
Just a quick question. Do you, I understand that that they want to reopen the building for
Can I put it right? Yeah.
Okay, all right. I can just come up with the word, but the museum wants to open up like in November
I thought February was their,
or February.
February or
Still,
March
that's going to be less than a year from now. Will they want some of that space back when they reopen the museum?
as far as I knew, it was office space that they're not using at this time. The courtroom was going to be the big room in the back, and they were okay with whatever time we needed to spend there. That office space that they were going to be using wasn't part of their plan for the museum to reopen.
Okay, thank you.
Does anyone have any new business? Yeah, I just have one item from the county. With the census that's happening, been going on, they've had a hard time with people going door to door, and actually folks not even answering doors for the census. We do have some numbers. Milton right now is at 68% response to the census, which is better than the national average, better than the state average, and better than the county average. But I want to impress to everyone tonight who's listening or watching that these numbers that we turned in this year are going to affect us for the next 10 years. I mean, county, state, every level is school aid. School aid depends on the census numbers. The money we get from the state depends on the census numbers, and even the money that we get from the federal government depends on our census numbers. So if you haven't filled out your census yet, please, you can go online and do it. You can mail it in. I think you have about another 2 weeks to fill it out. And count everybody. Little children count, grown-ups, adult parents living in your house count. It's not just you and your wife or your grown-up children. So, but 68% is above everybody else. Like I said, so if we can get that number up to 70 or 75%, I think we would be in great shape. With that, we will open it up to public comment. Ms. Morgan.
Please use the microphone. Use the microphone. Okay.
Not for us. Not for us. It's for the folks at home.
That way I'm the only one.
Okay. You and I can share the blame.
There you go.
Can you hear me?
We can.
Good.
I don't know if the folks at home can hear you.
Just bend it
Just
down.
bend it down.
There you go.
How about now?
There you go.
All right. What are you still doing here? All these reports that came in on town hall, I got this morning and I spent a good part of the day reading them.
We decided to move out of the building.
Those are your allergy-ridden people?
There were people who had a rather difficult time working downstairs with the mold that we faced. Yes. And I was, to be honest with you, I was concerned about them down there all day. There are people that are in that downstairs 7, 8 hours a day, 40 hours a week. And so, although that problem has existed for years, this board will tackle that problem. And John's working with MJ, and they're coming up with a plan for us. And we'll move as fast as we can, Mary Ann.
Their prices seemed a little higher than a couple of the other reports. I mean, if you're looking at, we need to save money in addition to all the rest of this. But,
I guess which reports are you referring to?
H&M,
H&M? Who's H&M?
let's see, this one is Van Gilder.
Yes.
Are you familiar with them?
Yes, they took the original samples.
Microphone.
Oh,
Like,
sorry. Van Gilder, I know, Mary Ann. Pretty hard to reach over and slap me. I think they took the original samples, to be honest with you.
But there doesn't seem to be a great variation between one's conclusion and the other's conclusion.
Well, there is, in the upper ceiling, in the roof area, there's 4,000 square feet of mold that has to come out.
Well, the roof needs to be fixed, there's
Yeah,
no
that's
argument.
correct, but that just doesn't involve taking and fixing the roof. What they do to mitigate that, they have to have people come in,
Yes,
they
Yeah.
close off the area, and they actually do dry ice blasting.
I did a very intensive study on all of your studies,
Correct.
and I am familiar with what the process.
So there's a little process there. Originally, we spent a small amount of time, originally, just to make sure that this would involve being a public works contract. Then it went over $30,000, which it does. So that takes time to get all those in. And then dealing with the insurance company took us about a month. And to be quite honest with you, contracts in municipal government don't move fast.
Well, especially in a
they did.
pandemic.
Well, yes and no. I mean, pandemic, you know,
But we do have, it seems, a lot of extra time on our hands at present. And we have a lot of people whose life situations are in the balance. Your employees, I'm sure they're not thrilled to death to be here, well, maybe. Your seniors are not at all happy. And you don't have an awful lot of time before there's another election, so probably better put your big boy pants on and get going.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yes, ma'am.
Kathy Eichmann.
You can take that off.
Kathy Eichmann, I'm a member of the Milton area seniors. On another note, first off, address 60 Round Lake Road. I'm president of the Malta Seniors and a member of Boston area seniors. And Malta seniors are beginning to start up. It's been very hard. You have over 300 Boston area seniors that are missing having a space to go and be with. At first it was indicated that the craft room would be left open. There are chances now that you could have 6 to 8 people working on a craft and there being more than 6 feet apart, but that's impossible at this point because of storage. I believe the first report came out March 23rd. Even if you're looking at 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, we're past that now. It's hard when you take away the opportunity for seniors to socialize, and isolate, and now you've also taken away their base, what they're familiar with, what they need to put a tag on, so that they know they have a place to come to. I have a concern when they said you're evaluating plans for phase 1, phase 2 for this building, because that appears then there's going to be several more months. So just speaking from a senior's point of view, and I'm only one of 300 and some, it would be very nice if they could at least meet here in small groups and begin that process. I also applaud you for looking at the Brookside Museum as a court location, putting security in place. I belong to the Historic Preservation Review Commission, and using older buildings for new purposes is a wonderful thing. They used to have courts in houses, for goodness sakes. And I'm not sure what the safety is here compared to being in an enclosed space where you could have more safety in place. Thank you for listening.
Thank you. Anyone else? Mr. Bugodi.
Good evening and thank you. Couple of things before I get into the meat of what I wanted to say. I'm a senior and good luck getting your building back. I'm a little disappointed there was no discussion under old business in regarding to the last board meeting, and we had a significant event and we're involved in a rate hearing and there's no public discussion whatsoever regarding what was presented and no discussion amongst members. Before I continue, I just want to say I am the reason Brenda couldn't find the report. It's because I filed the report. And the reason I filed the report is under Freedom of Information Law, the clerk's supposed to have all this stuff. And as for professionalism, I'll have to come and say that Brenda is very professional. She's responded to all of our requests, and I can't say enough good things, and Brenda, thank you for putting up with our floral requests and for the office contacting you, but professionalism has never been in short order at the clerk's office, and thank you, Brenda. Any questions on what we presented last month?
What you presented?
On what we presented?
I don't have so much questions on what you presented. I do have some questions which I sent to the town board for. Oh, sorry. I do have some questions about things that were in the Heritage Report. And now that we got the final report from Gary Robinson, I have more questions. I assume that we've contacted our engineer to look at this stuff, and we need to have some kind of an accountant firm look at it. Whether we use MJ as accountant, forensic accountants, or somebody else, but when I read into Gary Robinson's report today a little bit, I'm concerned that they showed in 2019 the number of hookups they did, but they nowhere in there showed any of Heritage, the apartment hookups. I have to say, last month I made a misstatement when I said I thought their rate for the apartments was $18.50, it's actually $7.50. But with that said, they had 26 hookups in 2019 apartment hookups, which is about $18,000 that they're not showing in their general ledger. So I have really quite a few concerns about all these hookup fees and where they all wind up. I'm really looking at the whole thing from a very simplistic way, that the agreement the gentleman made, I'm a big believer, if you sign a contract, you ought to stick to it, is the fact that when they were repaid their initial investment, this was going to the county. I really think that we need to look at how much hookup fees they received, because there are 528 apartments, which account for roughly about $400,000 right now. And if you add the other 120 that are coming, it'll be over $500,000, and I don't know that that's necessarily accounted for in the hookup fees as they put the schedules out there. So I assume that's where we're at right now, is just getting some of these reports looked at by our own.
Well, I thank you for that insight, and I'm going to be looking forward, not really, but I will be reading their rebuttal, for the want of a better word. I read all their submittals to date. I can help you out if you haven't read it. There's nothing in there. They went on and on about how great their system is, how good the pumps are, and by law, they're supposed to keep them in that order, and by your law. Huh?
1 minute.
1 minute? I'm the only guy that you talked about a time limit. Everybody else stood up here, and they didn't say people about a time limit, but when I get up here, you do.
Everyone gets 3 minutes.
That's kind of discriminatory. No, because the first
Well,
woman
I
up,
think
Mary
I-
Ann was up here, and I timed it, was over 6 minutes. Okay? So, no, you're not going to discriminate against me.
I'll give you
I
one- I'll give you
specifically
one- I will
timed
give you
her.
1 more minute, sir. I will give you 4 minutes.
Something as important as that. You know, this is ridiculous. I sat here and timed her. It was over 6 minutes. You didn't say. And I waited for the next woman to
And
make a
how much time, I'm
presentation.
not gonna get into this, how much time did I give you 2 weeks ago, sir?
So what, if you gave me? What is the rush? We spent more time on
3
the
minutes. You have
resignation
3
of the
minutes,
dog
sir.
catcher than we are on the rate hearing. You can't make it any more difficult, Benny. But I take it as discriminatory, and if you keep doing it to me, you're gonna be dealing with it. The first 2 speakers were not told that there's a time limit, and I timed them, and it was 6 minutes, and then I get up here, you tell me I got a time limit. You don't like Madden, you don't like me, which one is it? I read through the Heritage material, there's nothing in there. All about how great their system is, and what good system. But there was one thing that's missing, you know what that is? Not one page about Heritage Springs Sewer Works Inc. investment, because they have $0 in the ground. There's an easy resolution to this. You send them to the county. They've been here for 33 years. They don't
I
have.
need to stop you for a second.
I'm sorry?
I need to stop you for 1 second. there is someone on Zoom who doesn't have the nerve or the courage to put their name or their telephone number or anything on their comments. I'm not going to repeat what's said, but if this keeps up, I will discontinue Zoom, and we will limit these meetings to 20 people in a meeting. So if you're going to have the courage to come and say what you're saying there, put your name, put your phone number, put an email address. Go ahead, sir.
I'd love to read that. Okay. So, thank you. So there's an easy resolution to this. You transfer them, you send it to the county. I had a couple questions. Did you all understand the email that we presented from the owner of the company last month that you all have in your file? I'll read it again. It's simple. In our case, we have no capitalization. You know what that means. I'll explain it to you. They have no investment. We're not taking depreciation. They can't because they don't have an investment. You can't depreciate what you don't have. Or they're not including it as a rate component. And we are not entitled to a return on an investment. I know, because you don't have one. But this board in 2010 said they had $1 million in the ground and gave them 7%. After the owner said he didn't have any money in the ground and he's not entitled to it, this board turned around and gave it to him. It's egregious. It goes on to say, it is very simple. If the town had taken the position we could not impose a connection fee, we would simply not have extended our system except for our own projects. You remember my presentation last month that they did it in private real estate deals? Well, that's what they did. And they did it over and over. The sewer company, the only entity that you can set a rate on has zero investment. You can't set a rate on what the shareholders or the principals invested in private real estate deals. Has the town received any evidence, and I'll yet to read it, that contradicts what Mr. Kuchar said, which was Heritage Springs Sewer Works Inc. has no investment? I'll look forward to reading it. I don't know.
1 minute, sir.
Thank you. I'll gather myself for a minute. Their attorney, by transcript, when we had a transcript done of the last meeting, stated the following. It was paid for by the principals of the sewer company, okay? And they did expense the cost up front. When you expense the cost, it's paid for. You can't expense it and then turn around and depreciate it because it doesn't exist. This is a simple thing. This has gone on for over 30-some years. It can't get any more simple for this board. The determination is, do they have an investment? Heritage Springs Sewer Works Inc., yes or no? And it's no. I'll give you the answer, because it isn't there. Because the same year that you said, you, the board, said they had $1,114,000 in assets, their tax return that they filed with the federal government was $1,258, and it's in your file, on their federal tax return. That was their total assets. It's egregious. I've been standing up here for 22 years talking to you about it. Now, my last question is to you, Supervisor Zlotnick. Do you remember what you said to the Saratogian Reporter in 2011 when you were running for office?
9 years ago?
Yeah.
No, honestly, I don't remember.
Let me remind you, because you were asked the question, why are you running for office? And your response was, I'm running because I believe when citizens ask questions of town officials at board meetings, they deserve honest answers in a timely fashion. You still believe that?
I still believe that.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Thank you. No, I can't cut that person off. No, it says, I'm sorry, just a minute, there was someone, no, they came in on the question and answer, not on the participants. So,
Okay.
can't do that. Mr. Rossi is asking to speak, so, Mr. Rossi, go ahead. I'm working on it, hang on a second, I'm not a high-tech person. Try it again.
Can you hear me now?
Yes,
of Frank Ross, C juniors, C3 Saratoga Ave, Harvard E, also stop. Supervisor Zlotnick, this is the second time you refer to the action of getting out of the town hall because the whole situation is overzealous. The first time was basically pointing the finger at Bill Lewis, building inspector, and also in this meeting we had Mark referring to Brenda as unprofessional. This isn't the time, what we're facing in this country, this town, anything, to be undermining our important members of our community, like Bill and Brenda, publicly to the degree you both have been doing. I understand the seniors' concerns and everything. I'm not trying to undermine their statements earlier in this meeting in public comment, but it is freaking ridiculous at this point that you're going to undermine Bill the way you've been doing it. It undermines everything he tries to do from here on out when the supervisor publicly makes comments like those. And the worst part of it is, in this meeting, you admit the fact that there are issues with mold and response to mold by employees, and those are the reasons why we end up where we are in the senior center. You admit it, and yes, you call it overzealous. You can't have it both ways. And when you're trying to have it both ways in this situation, you're hurting the building inspector and his integrity ultimately. Enough with it. Enough of shooting down people. You keep doing it, but behind the scenes I hear so many different things about what you've been up to in that respect. You've got to work with the people you have. You have to have a rapport with them. You cannot continue shooting down people and creating issues during this pandemic we're in. We have to work together. If we don't work together, we don't have a town. And this is under your watch right now. Enough is enough, Betty. Enough is enough. Thank you.
Frank?
Thank you, sir.
Frank?
No, Barbara, it's public comment. And
Oh,
Mr.
I want to say,
Rossi- No, Mr. Rossi has made his comment, and I appreciate that, but we're not going to go into a he said, she said. Well, it doesn't require a response. He made a statement, and I thank him for his time. Does anyone else have anything they'd like to say? Bruce?
Thank you for the opportunity to speak. I had some prepared notes, but I'm going to mix it up a little bit because I would like to address what Mr. Folish said. You mentioned they are to pay $750. Where do you get that information from, John?
I got that out of Gary Robinson's final report.
Microphone, John.
Gary Robinson's final report?
Correct.
Okay, that will tie into what I was initially going to talk about. So that was a report you just received, or?
Correct.
And they pay $750 a unit at K. Ross Estates. Okay, very good. So, does the town board know how much, if anything, the apartments at Winter Circle, I call it K. Ross Village, it changed. Winter Circle has paid for the sewer connections, and what evidence do you have of reported payments? No knowledge of that?
I'm sorry, Bruce, I'm having a problem with someone who's anonymous. If you could repeat the question again,
There's one quick way you probably shut the top of that now. But,
Yes, but then the 22 people that are paying attention and doing the right thing are going to yell at me for the one individual who decided that he'd like to be a comedian, a racist, and whatever else that he wants to spit out.
fair enough. Provided this time does not come out in a lot of time.
Oh, no, you'll have your full 6 minutes.
Thank you. My question was, Supervisor, does the board know how much, if anything, the apartments at Winter Circle has paid for sewer connections, and what evidence do you have to support any reported payments?
I don't have that answer for you right now, Bruce.
Is it possible to get that answer?
Sure.
Thank you. So to address your question, and the fact, let's all bear in mind that Gary Robinson said they pay $750 per ERU. And let's remember that you believe in principle that if you sign a contract, you stick to that contract. That's what I just heard you say, Mr. Froelich. So thank you for that. So in there, and you also mentioned 528 units, is that correct?
That's what it is.
Okay.
COs now.
And that was from Mr. Robinson's report?
They're 2019.
Okay, thank you. So in the report that we foiled from Heritage, they have a list of ECUs and connections. In there, they have Winter Circle at $5.99, bit of a discrepancy. So that's important to note because Heritage, it has a contract with Winter Circle that Winter Circle pays $1,500 per ERU. It's right here. And it says in the contract that the developer shall obtain all necessary permits and approvals from the town of Milton, county of Saratoga, or any other municipal authority having jurisdiction to construct, lay, operate, maintain sewer mains where necessary in the public right of way. So if they're to get permits, that means they have to follow the rules of Saratoga County. These are the rules of Saratoga County Sewer District. They're published. You can go online and can see them. And it is the scale of charges for Saratoga County Sewer District number 1. Under that, they define an ERU, ECU, EDU, whatever you want to call it. They define an ERU. A connection unit is defined as a single-family dwelling. Units include, but are not limited to, a single-family house, each apartment. For example, an apartment building with 6 apartments is 6 units. So now we have 599 ERUs according to Heritage Springs report. We have the county that says 1 apartment is 1 ERU. And we have a contract that Heritage Springs signed with KVA. And that contract, which this is a page of, states, in consideration for providing sanitary sewer services, developer hereby agrees to pay Heritage $1,500 per equivalent residential unit. Does all make sense so far? So I would say, I won't quote our president, but I'll say Gary Robinson's report was just a bunch of BS. Wasn't it? Or it could have been a lie, or it could have been a misrepresentation. So maybe for the purposes tonight, I'll call it a glaring inconsistency, which is precisely what they have done in that entire report. So, the final analysis, and I'll use 600 because it's easy math. 600 times 1,500 is how much, Mr. Crowell?
600 times 1,500? I want to say 750,000.
900,000.
I suppose.
Fair. Sorry to put you on the spot. You know?
Saratoga, too.
You went to Saratoga? I went to Boston Spot. So
See, we got it right.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty sharp at math.
So $900,000, not $400,000, $900,000. Question of the board: where is the $900,000? Or, since Mr. Mitchell is an owner of KVA, do they not pay? Is it a special consideration? Is it self-dealing? It is. I will expect an answer at the next meeting to that $900,000 question. Thank you. And I think you would take more time in protecting the citizens of this town than protecting an unregulated monopoly which was born out of corruption.
Anyone else? Seeing no one else?